There are tons of games coming out these days, and being a YouTuber that mainly reviews games, it can be hard to pick what to check out next with so many options. Combine that problem with how expensive some of these games are, it can really be tough making the right choices. So what can we do? If only you can play a small preview of the game. Maybe a selection or two of it, just so you can get the feel of the game, without spending a single dime. I wonder what to do. Oh yeah, game demos. Yes, game demos. Those no-risk, all-reward snapshots of gameplays that let you feel out a title without pulling out your wallet. Think of them like movie trailers, but for games, and much more interactive and less cheesy. A gameplay demo is a great way to get your potential fans involved by actually letting you play the game. Who'd have thought? This small effort has helped many developers stand out when their competition only had gameplay videos or display art to show off. Demos are incredibly important to gaming and should not be overlooked. They're a big deal, and in some cases, can ultimately make or break a game. But why are demos so important? Let's find out. Demos, short for demonstrations, were a lot more uncommon in the early days of home gaming. They show up on floppy disks. Hey, somebody 3D printed a save icon. God, I'm old. Sometimes they show up with alongside your latest game purchase, or you'd get them from a magazine subscription. There were even some games that included demos to other titles in the game itself. My first game demo was Crash Bash. I had access to it after putting a code into Spyro Year of the Dragon. It wasn't the full game, just a small segment with a few mini-games thrown in. Just enough to get an idea of how to play it. It was also my first introduction to Crash Bandicoot. What have I got? I also remember these kiosks that you would see in Best Buy, GameStop, or even Target. These were basically just TV stations where you could play the latest releases before buying them. Those count as demos, right? Kiosks like these were also at events like E3, rest in peace. In fact, playing game demos was one of the biggest draws for these gaming conventions, as a lot of gaming journalists relied on those demos to get the early scoop on what's coming. Publishers also used those demos to get important feedback before an official release. They were first impressions after all. Nowadays, you see demos like these at conventions like PAX. Demos were great, but they were still pretty limited. Outside of traveling to conventions, you'd be lucky if you got a physical copy of a demo through magazine or something. But all of that was about to change with something called Steam. Steam revolutionized gaming by centralizing your libraries on a single computer. The instant on digital titles pushed the industry in a significant direction and forced the big players to follow suit. With a focus on indie titles, Steam provided a home for all sorts of hidden gems and burgeoning video game companies. You no longer had to go to the retail store. You could just go online and grab those games. Most importantly, those games often had a readily available demo for you to download and try before you buy. This made a huge difference for the indie scene. If somebody was on the edge of interest, the demo was a great way to determine if the game was going to be worth it or not. Undertale demoed the first chapter of its story to help kickstart the Kickstarter. Lots of Kickstarters have available demos of some sort to get people interested in crowdfunding the venture. We even have Steam Next Fests, which is basically a whole event full of demos, some of which are only available for the duration of the event. I took a chance on so many Switch and Steam games because there was a demo I could try, and I know I'm not alone in this. One example of a Steam game that I tried during a demo one time was Eternights, a dating sim game that took place at the end of the world. It was really cool. And not only was it successful when it launched on Steam and PlayStation, but it's also getting a Switch version with its own physical copy. Look how far you've come, Eternights. Look how far you've come. The scene has also evolved even past demos, with some companies and platforms offering free-to-play days with various AAA titles. These are basically an entire day or two to test out the entire game with no restrictions. I'm not sure if that lets you get achievements or trophies for those games during that time, but that only matters to a few people, so if you care about achievements, I hope you got them. And of course, Nintendo has taken advantage of demos as of late. In fact, they were doing a lot during the Switch's lifetime. In an indie world way back, we got demos of Euphoria and AntonBlast, two indie games that are going to be on Switch, where you can get an early preview of the game right now. But excluding indie games, their main games also rely on demos. While I could list some examples of great demos, and I will, let's talk about a demo that did not do well. Mario vs. Donkey Kong. There were a lot of things not to like about this demo. It was like Nintendo did everything they could to showcase how not to do a demo. It was way too short, consisting of the game's first levels. All in all, it also only lasted like 15 minutes, hardly enough time to show what the game had to offer. And while Mario vs. Donkey Kong wasn't going to win Game of the Year, this demo really didn't do it any favors. I remember so many people just losing any enthusiasm they had for this game after trying the demo. The funny thing is, it could have showcased some of the game's strengths, maybe shown off a challenging level, maybe shown off the variety of how the levels look. But nope, Nintendo just cut and paste the easy peasy levels and misrepresented what the game had to offer from the get-go. And as a result, a lot of people did not buy Mario vs. Donkey Kong. I stand corrected. If you want more details about my thoughts on Mario vs. Donkey Kong, I made a video about it. You can check it out yourself. A lot of people also said that the demo for Princess Peach Showtime was bad. I kinda disagree. It wasn't perfect, but it definitely wasn't nearly as bad as Mario vs. Donkey Kong. You get to see two of Peach's costumes, two levels that are a lot longer and more engaging, and give you a much better feel of the game. Do I think they could have shown off a few more costumes for Princess Peach Showtime? Absolutely. But if you had to choose two, I get why you chose Sword Fighter Peach and Patisserie Peach. I kind of wish you squeezed in Cowgirl Peach. That would have been a great trio, but it did its job and got enough people to play the game. Still, there are a lot better demos. In fact, I think I'll list some of my favorite demos on the Nintendo Switch. And if any of these demos interest you, you can find them on the eShop and play them yourself. I highly recommend it. Let's start with Bakeru. Bakeru? Bakeru? Bakeru. This game finally got a release in the West, and the demo consists of an opening cutscene, 3 different levels, a mini game, and a boss fight. You're not only getting a variety of areas to explore with varying platforming challenges, but you get a basic feel of what the game is like, and a decent chunk of it. I was able to get the vibe, the pattern, the humor, the collectibles, the fact there's a living poop who gives you Japanese trivia, and it was all self-contained with a nice little bow. It gave me the small taste of a beautiful platformer in the making. The next example is another recent game, Emio the Smiling Man. They did something really unique with this example. They released the prologue and the first chapter in a demo. And for the next week or two, they slowly released the second and third chapters for free, right before the game released. I really liked how they did this, and appreciate how it felt like a weekly TV show or webcomic. What's going to happen next time? Find out next week on Emio the Smiling Man. As for my take on Emio and how the game is itself, next time. For real, I hope Nintendo does more demos like this, especially for the more narrative games. The best part is, your progress carries over, so your time at the demo wasn't wasted, and you could just continue on to the main game if you'd like, after you purchase it. I really like this a lot, because it feels like the company is valuing the time you spend playing the demo instead of making you play it all over again. A lot of demos will have a time limit or goal-based objective before they cut you off. Pikmin 4 is one such example. You could play the game as long as you wanted up until you collected a certain amount of Sparklium. A year later, and I still hate that name. This means if you strategized it just right, you could stretch your demo time out an extra hour or two. I remember getting a good 3 to 4 hours out of that game in the demo, which is very impressive, and I'm sure no other game we talk about today will top that. What's this? Is that the smell of foreshadowing? A notable trio that utilizes these demos is Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, and Octopath Traveler 2. These 2.5D epics not only looked really cool, but had pretty hefty demos for both quality and length. You can get a quality amount of gameplay for these free experiences. The coolest thing about these demos was that the devs sent surveys to those who played them asking for feedback, and they took that feedback into consideration when making the final version of the game. That's incredible! It wasn't just an early preview, but also a learning tool to make their game better. That's brilliant, Octopath devs. You get a cookie. What other cool demos are out there? Well, how about Miitopia? Now I know what you're thinking. Why Miitopia? Why this demo? Well, everything carries over when you buy the full game. It's a goofy game that lets you play as funny Miis. But I think the most interesting thing is you get a whole dang Mii creator to go with the demo. If you like creating funny and interesting avatars, this demo would be right up your alley. I know tons of folks who literally spent hours making funny and cute Miis. Also, get Miitopia, it's underrated as hell. Alright, final example, and one of my personal favorites. Unicorn Overlord. I'm glad I finally get to talk about this game, and don't let the silly name fool you, trust me. You play as Prince Elaine, whose kingdom was invaded by an evil king, and now, years later, forms a rebellion to rise against those same evil forces. The game focuses on real-time strategy and recruiting new characters. It's a nice mix of Fire Emblem and Ogre battle tactics. But why bring it up in a video about demos? Well, when I played it, I was just getting into it. The fully voiced cutscenes, the art style, the gameplay, the way everyone talks Old English, it's all great stuff. Then we made our way to the main hub area, the map of the world. It had already been about 45 minutes, and I was surprised we were still going. How long is this game? 7 hours left? Unicorn Overlord was so confident with its gameplay, the demo basically is the first 8 hours of the game. While there is a point you can reach that ends the demo immediately, you can play as much of those 7 hours as you'd like. There are tons of side missions where you can recruit characters and form units, go through optional dialogue, the works. I was really invested in the game long before the demo was even done. Afterwards, I immediately pre-ordered a physical copy. Well done, Unicorn Overlord. I had no plans to get you, and now you're one of my favorite Switch games of the year. I'm not kidding. I really love this game. Try it yourself, or just try the demo. You can play the game for 7 hours. All this to say, demos are so important and can determine whether you're buying a title or not. The days of playing demos on kiosks may be a thing of the past, but it's honestly for the better. These demos are available for everyone to play, and are so essential to introducing IPs new and old for no cost. In a world where gaming is so expensive, and it's so easy to be tricked into purchasing games, these demos are an opportunity for new games to prove themselves before you fork out $20, $40, or even $80 depending on the title. It's also incredible to see what they can do with these demos, and how much content they can pack into one small package. I really hope these demos continue, and we are able to see more of these gaming teasers in the future. So in short, play demos, whether they be for a AAA, indie, or anything in between. You never know when you're going to find your next favorite game. Now, if you need me, I'm going to play some more Unicorn Overlord. I'm serious. I love this game. Bye! Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, and maybe check out my other videos too. Special thanks to all the people who helped me out with the video. I couldn't have done it without all of you. Also, an extra special thanks to my Patreon patrons, including Mantelferox and Savicom. If you'd like to join the Patreon, the link is in the description below, along with my Twitch and Instagram. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good night.